Hello, welcome to my life and wellness coaching series. This series is intended to give you effective ways to help you achieve your goals, improve your overall well being, and create positive changes throughout your life. In this episode, we're going to discuss some of the ways and tools you can explore the vast spectrum of success and what that might mean to you. I'll also share with you some of my own views on what is success and how I came to sort of those self definitions of the word success. So before continuing, I want you to take 3 minutes, put me on pause after I give you an explanation of what we're doing. So set a timer, either use your Google, your Siri, your whomever, and set a timer for 3 minutes. During that 3 minutes, I want you to write down your own personal sort of dictionary definition of the word success. What does it mean to you? How do you define success? If someone were to ask you, in order for you to feel successful, what do you need to do? What would the results be for you to say I'm successful? Okay, so take 3 minutes, pause me right now, and I'll pick you up in 3 minutes. I'm waiting 3 seconds on this end. Okay, so how do you find the word success? How do you define it? What do you find it to bring up in you, the word success? Is it a positive word? Is it a negative word? Is it one that makes you nervous or excited? So for me, I found that personally, it's not an easy word to quickly and briefly define in my own words. So in order to try to find some sort of clarity and self-awareness around my personal definition of success, I forced myself to sit down with a pen and paper. And really, I had every intent to just sort of sit down and go, all right, success. Use it as an exercise, right? How do I define success? What do I think of success? What does it make me feel? Where do I start? So I decided I'm just going to brainstorm words. Success means fill in the blanks. Well, I was not succinct. I was definitely not efficient in my writing, and it went all over the place. And that's when I kind of went, all right, so how do people generally define success? How do you define success? And how do we get to a point of understanding what my personal definition of success actually is? So after I had jumbles of words flowing out onto the paper, I started to hesitate and second guess myself, and I started to stumble. I found that the words were sort of coalescing into a preconceived, acceptable form, and I was ticking appropriate boxes. Once the ink really started to dry on my pad and I moved on and did other things, I decided that I was going to actually look at some other people's definitions. What have influenced me? Why am I ticking other people's boxes when I try to define my own version of success? So it was kind of helpful. There were a couple that did speak to me, however. I looked up in dictionaries, I went online, thesaurus, things like that. There were some similar concise definitions. But within those definitions or within those options, there were huge contrasts conceptually, right? So let me read a couple for you. Success. This is from a dictionary. The achievement of something desired, planned, or attempted. Let me read that again. The achievement of something desired, planned, or attempted. You're successful at something. You've accomplished it. You've achieved it. Okay, I like that. That works fine, right? You achieved it, you got it, you did it, you succeeded. So then the other part of that, as a noun, success in the same source is, oddly enough, the gaining of fame or prosperity. That's where the word success has sort of evolved to. Let me read it again. The gaining of fame or prosperity. So that is not my definition of success. I understand it is a definition of success, that if you're famous, you're successful. Gotcha. If you're rich, you've obviously been successful with something. If you're prosperous, whatever prosperity may mean to you, because that also is a whole other bag of worms, that has a lot of different definitions personally. Prosperity. So, in the gaining of prosperity, the gaining of fame, in those cases, you're successful. All right, so let's go to a different source. This was an online dictionary. It was dictionary.com, as a matter of fact. Success, the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. Okay, that's similar to the first one of the other one. They have a quote, right? There is a thin line between success and failure, end quote. Is there? So you just killed that definition for me. Let me read it at the beginning again. The accomplishment, so achievement, accomplishment of an aim or purpose. I like that. So you have successes along the way. Absolutely. You create a goal, you have an aim, you have a purpose, and you achieve it. Great. But then it goes on with this weird, there is a thin line between success and failure. Why ruin it? I mean, it's an example of a sentence, but what a crappy example. Because I 100% disagree, there is a thin line. I guess that's maybe just a saying, but it's a crappy one because I don't agree that there's a thin line between success and failure. I think it can be extremely nebulous and unclear. Maybe that's what it means by a thin line. I don't know. I think that line is really wide and it's a full, broad spectrum. So if you think spectrum is a wide variety of color or a spectrum, so if you think gray, is there one color? Gray. Well, you have really light gray and you have really dark gray. And everything, there's a full spectrum of gray in between. So here's the second part of that definition. Excuse me, while a phone call comes in. The good or bad outcome of an undertaking. Okay, here's a different take. The good or bad outcome. So the good or ill success of their maritime enterprises is the quoted sentence, right? Let me read that again. The good or ill success of their maritime enterprises. Ill success. So you can have bad success? Wouldn't that be considered a different word? I'm not really sure. Maybe if you, I don't even understand how you can have a success can be defined as a bad outcome. Ill success. I think it's an old antiquated term. Anyway, so go to sources, you look them up, and what do you get? So confusing. So after some more introspection, I discovered that I've always struggled with this own personal definition of success and the concept generally of being successful, especially when I try to apply that black and white, if you will, to myself. I really don't do anything with a black and white definition of any of things. So maybe it's not a surprise, right? So let me give you a little background on me. I grew up in rural Vermont in a town called Shrewsbury. It's southeast of Rutland, Vermont, which is in the south central part of the state. Very rural, mountainous, gorgeous, fun place. Oh my gosh, wonderful place to grow up. My elementary school was phenomenal. Junior high and high is a combined union high school in a town over. And really in the era that I grew up in, there was only face-to-face interaction. There was no online, there were no computers. I know I made shit, I'm not. But it is interesting that in such a short period of time, how our culture has changed. So we either talked on the phone with other people, we interacted, face-to-face with other people. We wrote letters to one another. I know, what a concept, right? Physical letters. and had to wait for the responses. That was sort of the height of connectivity. For outside influence, it's outside concepts. Where we lived in the mountains, we didn't have cable. It didn't come to our house. We didn't have satellite. It was expensive. And so we had a big, ginormous antenna that would turn. Um, and so we got like 3 channels. And that was our, sort of window into the wide, wide world. Um, However, so I had a limited, it's a small town, so I had a limited sort of influence or sphere of definitions of success. And the ideas back in those days, back then when I was a kid, um, the idea of success that I experienced was pretty narrow and limited. But I realized at an early age that my own idea of success or my own feeling of what it should define or be defined as was very different. I saw others' definitions of success as being an external or measurable thing. It's what people tell you if you're successful or not an internal drive or an internal metric. So it's like I'm waiting for other people's definitions of if I'm successful, or to say, yes, you're successful by other people's standards. It was being successful really was to accomplish commonly accepted, clearly defined goals, and then move on to the next set of goals, which it still sort of is. But for me, it was the sort of outcome was different conceptually, because that process eventually either landed you successful at the top of whatever industry you're at, little teeny 1%, 3 people at the top of whatever industry it is, right? Those people whose names are on the tips of your tongue at all given time, or exactly who you are. Henry Ford, if you know that. Oh, that's from Ford Motors, right? Or you failed. You are either one of those top 5 people, or you are a failure. You were, therefore, either successful or you were not successful. You were a failure. And there was really not much in between. So, discussing this, sort of failure or success are the only 2 options that we have. I want to clarify that in my family, just personally, for your experience or your edification, I was lucky with who my parents are. I don't know if you call it lucky, whatever. My parents are, and still continue to be, incredibly enough, way ahead of their time conceptually. And they've always been really wonderfully, fantastically fluid and enlightened. They didn't define success and failure. And makes sense as to why I don't. By either you succeed or you fail. On the contrary, it's that you should try, and if it doesn't work, you try something else and you learn from that failure, that non-success, ill success as it was defined. But you just pivot and you move on and you go and you do something else and you try it in a different way and you get a different concept. With my dad, who was working on cars and doing mechanical things and electronics and things like that. And it was kind of like, you try this, that didn't work. Okay, troubleshoot. Try a different one, try a different one, try a different one. I translated that immediately to my own life. That didn't work. That one's okay. I think I can do better. That one's great, but is it functional, right? Yada, yada. You see the pattern. So my parents also always understood somehow, miraculously, amazing people, and that I would never fit in to any sort of narrow, strictly defined, socially determined structures. I was always going to be an outlier, and that as an artist, I was going to struggle as a result. Not only with how do I make a living, how do I be stable, all of these things, but with how do I define success? As an artist, how am I successful? It's not like I go, oh, I did a painting and it's perfect. It's done. Paintings really are never done. Musically, oh, I have accomplished everything that I could ever need to accomplish in music, and I am 25 years old. Boom. It doesn't work that way. So throughout my youth, I didn't recognize or understand how different they were from the rest of the world and how differently they were already defining and understanding success. So they continue to be my most vital advocates. All of my family do, for living in sort of a wide spectrum of success, of definitions being always evolving, always growing, always changing, and always accepting. So I have learned that this living within the spectrum of success is really how I've always defined the word success. That's kind of hard to pin down though, right? It's not really convenient. Now, I've had a number of careers over the years, and I've had amazing experiences. One reason for that is that I choose to use the word yes as an answer for, hey, do you wanna fill in the blank? I say, yeah, I wanna. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna. It doesn't mean that I'm able to. It means that, well, I want to do that. So then starts the next, how can I build towards success toward that? Or how can I try to see whether or not I can be successful in it? Or how can I just do it without worrying about if I'm successful and just doing it and enjoying myself? But my answer is always yes. My starting point is yes. So if your starting point is no, or which is a no, basically, you can think about it, which is not a big deal. But it should be an impetus from yes. And I chose to do that a long, long, long time ago when I realized that I was encouraging other people to say yes for things that I wanted. I was successful in constantly singing because people would offer me things that other people would turn down, and I would say, yes, sure, I'll do it. And then I showed up and I followed through. What does that do? Well, it gives you the reputation of always showing up, of being the go-to person, of being the person who will say yes, and they may not end up doing it, but they say, yes, I will help you figure out how to do that. I may not be the person for you. That may not be healthy for me, but yes, let's look at it. And it opens you up to a lot of opportunities and experiences and wonderful, wonderful things. It's also scary at times because you say yes, but then you go, there's no way I can do that. Oh my gosh. Well, that's when you get real and you just sit there and you go, okay, so I said yes, I do want to do that. However, realistically, I can't. Is there anything I can do to help you make that happen? I may know some people. Let me reach out to some friends. Let me ask on blah, 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 fill in your blanks. Okay? But it's starting from a yes point. I choose every day to live in a fluid and accepting, colorful spectrum of success. And it's allowed me to recognize that success is not an all or nothing thing. And you're not either successful or a failure. You're not a failure or successful. There's a wide spectrum in between. So this thinking and sort of belief system of yes, no, all or nothing, succeed or fail, it's too restrictive. It's too limiting. And in my world, it's not a happy place. So I encourage you to choose to live in this fantastic rainbow of success and continue exploring this vast spectrum that is exciting, challenging, and infinitely rewarding. As your life and wellness coach, We could work together to explore and discover different ways for you to live in a vast spectrum of success and to continue to grow throughout all aspects of your life that in a way that uniquely works for you. So for other ones, other life and wellness coaching insights, ideas, and suggestions and some guidance, I encourage you to follow, like, subscribe, share to your friends. And I'd like to hear from you. So send me a message, make a comment, and I really thank you for watching this series. I sincerely hope that these videos provide you with effective ways to help you achieve your goals, improve your overall well-being, and create positive change throughout your life. Have a wonderful day.